Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Devil's Advocate Trades Edition. Joining me today is Jill McMaster, and she is an amazing woman, and I'm so excited to have her on the show with me. She is a GM of a resto company, and I'm super stoked to have this conversation because so many women don't think that they can get to where they need to get to, and Jill is living proof that if you put your mind to it, you can sit at the top of the food chain and help direct everybody in all the right places. So, welcome to the show, Jill.
Thank you so much. That was such a kind introduction.
Well, it's true. I mean, do you know how many women just sit there and they're like, I'll never be the GM or I'll never be the CEO unless it's a woman that, builds the company herself. A lot of them don't think that they'll make it to that, especially in a male dominated industry. It's hard to sit at the top and help direct the flow of traffic inside the industry, right? And inside your company and your organization. So I think that's a great thing. So kudos to your company for putting you in the position.
Thank you so much. Yes, I was so happy to get your call because, as you mentioned, just being a woman in any industry, it's a different balance. And it doesn't matter if you're in construction or anything else. People are usually wives and mothers. There's a lot to balance. And so it's challenging. And it's nice to be able to develop a network of women that you can lean on and just kind of navigate those challenges. So getting the call from you and you being just an absolute powerhouse in your industry, I was really excited to just sit down and have this open dialogue. And where it goes, it goes. The opinions are my own. Of course, I'm a GM of a restoration firm, but I also have a whole lot of experience behind me that isn't specific to the restoration industry. And I know we're going to laterally speak about just condo development, insurance, and things of that nature and how I got to where I am. So hopefully your listeners will engage with some of that content.
Well, I'm going to tell you. So whenever I get somebody on the show, I go creep them. So I get to find out kind of what they have. So, and I do that for two reasons. For one, I don't like being a host that puts somebody in a hot seat where they feel that they can't, that they might look lesser. I don't want people to question what they do and what they don't. So I'm grateful that you said that you don't have a lot of background in the restoration side of things in certain aspects, because I did go creepy and I was like, does she have ICRC certifications? Does she have this? Does she have that? But you actually, you have a different line that helps with that management portion.
I do. So I've been doing either restoration or insurance specific for the entirety of my career, but I've swung a couple of different directions and I've had the blessing of being able to be coached and mentored in different lines of business and different approaches to insurance, which is why I think I have a lot of strength in the position that I am in now. And I've been able to mentor under extremely senior people and entrepreneurs who have built their own brand and built their own business. And many employees don't see the sacrifice that restoration owners do and the knowledge that they're able to impart because they're living and breathing it. There is nothing like a restoration owner. It's a tough economy right now. So very blessed to be able to have the opportunity just to speak to some of our mutual concerns and challenges.
Absolutely. So I have a background in resto. And my goal for 2025 is to actually become a master water tech. So funny.
About you, and you would be, correct me if I'm wrong, the first female in Alberta if you were able to do this, and you were very close.
Yeah, not too far. I still got a couple of courses to go and get there, but I've been to my fair share of restoration jobs and seen what I need to see and pulled up flooring and 2 feet of CAD 3 water and whatnot. So I mean, like I think I've earned my badge.
Oh, for sure. And it's job security, right? And that's what I have the blessing. When I coach and mentor staff, I always engage them that if you stick with this industry, you're always going to have a job, because when it comes to restoration, a robot is never going to do my role. They're never going to roll up to your house at 3:00 in the morning and extract 2 feet of sewage. That's what our people have to do, to put people back to pre-loss condition and give them their lives back. And so it's really fun and engaging in that way.
It is. I'll tell you something. So restoration is a different beast all on its own. Mm-hmm. So I spent a lot of time in different avenues of construction, roads, concrete, renovation is a big one that I kind of put myself in. So a lot of exterior renovation, some interior, but like, as you know, my niche is condo, which is where you and I met, right? Because we met at the ACR. And yes. I remember I walked up to you and I grabbed your card and I saw that you were the GC and the GM, and I whipped around and I was like, I love that you're the GM. And you were just like, oh, I'm like, I'm going to call you. I have a podcast. I want you to come on it to show all these women that you can do whatever you put your mind to. But in this industry, it is hard for two reasons that I have that I personally witnessed. So when I say it's a different beast, when I used to walk in and have to tell people that they had to vacate their premises, or had to wake people up and be like, we've got a massive, we got a massive leak coming down into your unit, and they have no idea. And they're like, what? And they're scared. Now, the nice thing about being female in this industry is most people will let you in at 3:00 in the morning when you're banging on their door going, you have an emergency, I need to get in. And you're female, most of the time they'll let you in. You've got a great big male, they're kind of like a little hesitant, especially when you're dealing with an older building.
Yes.
And you have like when I say older building, I mean like an older crowd.
Yep.
A lot of them are single women that are older, elderly. They don't want to open the door to a great big man banging on their door at 3 a.m, but they will to me, because I'll be like, hey, there's an emergency. This is my name. Here's my badge. Here's this, here's that. And they're like, oh, okay. So,
Yep.
and that's something I always try to explain to resto people. Make sure you are wearing gear that shows them that you are supposed to be there, because it's scary, right?
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head as it comes to health and safety. And we're two women in the industry. So leaning into that, there are different concerns for us in comparison to my male project managers. I go to homes by myself all the time, and I am entering into an environment where I'm closed off from the world, and health and safety has to be paramount. So some of the safety tips, when I was adjusting, the employer that I worked for actually put all of the adjusters, whether they were female or not, through the local police training that was developed specific for industry employees who had to go into people's homes.
Okay.
And especially for young women, just giving those tips and tricks where you can kind of excuse yourself from a conversation where you're uncomfortable, or you're preserving the integrity of the intention of why you're there. And so an example that I'll give you is when I was adjusting, was the dead of summer. It was so hot, and I had this loss to go to, which was always on my calendar where I was, so my employer would know if they didn't hear from me, this was my last recorded address. But the gentleman entered the door and just alarm bells went off. And I'm like, don't go in the house with him. And so I had gone through this training, and it just popped into my head one of the tricks that they had told me, because I smelled alcohol. He was like, he just did not make me comfortable to be alone in the home. And so one of the tips that I was taught by this training was, hey, I know we have an appointment, but I came to let you know that I've had an emergency family situation, and it would have been so rude of me to just not show up or to call after the fact. I was in the neighborhood because I was close, but I just got the call, can I reschedule with you? And then I rescheduled and went back with the vendor, with the contractor, because that was that additional layer of health and safety. And it's unfortunate, but females in the industry do have to be very conscious of that.
And I'm gonna expand on that one, Jill, because I agree with you. But men also have to be careful, because during COVID,
right?
I was the health and safety, and I was the project manager, and because of my background, so I'm also designated as HSA. So I have a health and safety background, and I'm very health and safety conscious. But I'm not going to lie to you, I was no better than some of these boys on site. And I had one of the guys call me, and he was like, "This is a problem. This woman is going to attack me." And I'm like, "Attack you how?" And they're like, "I think she's going to sexually attack me." I'm like, "She's not going to sexually attack me." Like, you're being ridiculous. And he was adamant. He's like, "You need to come here now. I will physically assault myself. I will cut my hand if you don't come back."
So we do, and it's a reality of the business, right? You have to consider exposures. So myself as the GM, part of my role is ensuring not only the financial health of the company, but the risk assessment and the risk management, and being in people's homes, one person's word against another. So we implemented quite a long time ago what's called a companion order on a job. So if there, of course, for health and safety reasons, any manner of construction usually dictates a partner anyway. However, there are files where there's just an elevated level of observance, and so we will put a companion order on that, so that nobody can say Mr. Senior Water Technician was alone in the house, and whomever says what occurred, no, a companion order is intended to just have that extra layer of documentation.
It's amazing. I think that's great. I think all the things you're talking about are great, because for me, like when I went, and I went obviously because I'm his lead. And so of course I went and try to save him. But in my brain, I'm just like, I'm cracking up. I'm like, he's crazy. What is he talking about? And when I went in there and I physically witnessed her aggressiveness towards him, and I immediately reported it to the company that I was working for, because I was a consultant at the time. So I reported it to the company. I reported it to the property manager. I reported it to everywhere I needed to immediately. And I stayed the whole time because he had to get the job done. And then I found out that this was like we were like the third contractor in there. And I was like, well, yeah, no shit. So, I mean, I stayed and I tried to distract her come tell me about this, come tell me about that, blah, 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 blah. So he could get the job done. And I'm like, work fast. And he was good at his job. So he was able to work pretty quick. I think we were in and out of there for a couple of days, and that was it. But just, I was flabbergasted. And then when I sat with the guys in the crew and I was talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, women are crazy. And I'm like, there's a part of me that just have to laugh, because I'm like, what are you talking about? And they would tell me they would get cornered, or they would walk around in almost nothing or lingerie. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh yeah. And if you didn't engage, or if you didn't notice, or if you basically rejected them, they reported you that you tried to do something, and then you're losing your job and you have to prove that and I'm like, are you serious? And they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, oh my God, that's wild.
Yeah, and it's becoming more common for a variety of reasons, just to have those files that require that heightened awareness. And
Yeah.
you use the word aggressive, and that is becoming very common. But
Mm-hmm.
I, as a leader, like to examine just trends and why things are occurring. And in recent years, like Canada's under immense pressure, like economically speaking, the average family, like the price of groceries, everything. And so a lot of our clients are extremely stressed out when they fall into our lap, because a lot of what we do is insurance based. They're not planned renovations, and this is all of the money that many families have in the world tied up in their homes. So it's a very emotional experience to have an insurance claim or a loss that you didn't expect. And so the level of aggression almost fits the current economy, because there are
Mm-hmm.
so many unknowns. And not all insurance carriers, not all condo boards are the best of the best. And it's unfortunate that they're not all tens, but there are
Mm-hmm.
the ones that we have the ability to work with, are extremely astute in just navigating this really difficult and hard market. And so we like to look at strategies of understanding those pain points and solving them, because 9 times out of 10, in our experience, if a homeowner is aggressive with us, it's because we have not done what we have promised to do. So if I tell you I'm starting a job on December 9th and I'm going to be done on December 21st, of course you're going to be upset if I'm not there the day I start, if I don't follow my construction schedule. And things happen because we are a disaster restoration specific firm, meaning that disaster is prioritized. I will draw your attention to the recent hail catastrophe that happened on August 5th, where we were just inundated with thousands of claims. And that happens on many levels, depending on the source, whether it's a water event or a fire event. But we still have that whole other area of business that is that lack of urgency, but work that still needs to be done. But it all comes back to communication. And that's really what we kind of drive down the throats of our staff, that we do this every day. Don't get desensitized to the fact that this homeowner and this family is devastated. They have never
Mm-hmm.
seen us again. They hope to never see us again, and they just want their life back. So approach them with kindness. Yes, they're upset because maybe they're sleeping in their parents' basement tonight until the insurance company works out a hotel that's big enough for their family and their dog. Like,
Yeah.
cut them a break. We're here
Mm-hmm.
to help. And so that's really what I try and drive home.
I love that. So I did the same thing when I was on a large lost property downtown Calgary. And that was something that I would get my troops to, when we would huddle around and we'd have our safety meeting. And that was one of the big things that I said, remember guys, you go home tonight, they don't come home. So let's try and get this done as quickly as possible to get them back in their house.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and they did. I mean, the crews that I worked with from multiple companies did an amazing job, and we were able to get everything said and done within record time and get it all passed, right? So and these are things that when you're a good leader, you remind people to keep that human component. So that's where I say it's a different beast, because you're not walking into, oh well, like Jane wants her basement done, or Bobby wants to have some paint on the walls and new baseboards. This is an emergency, like something has happened in the house, whether it's a leak or a fire or whatever has created a loss somewhere, and you're dealing with people, especially around the holidays.
Oh,
When there's a
absolutely.
loss around the holidays, it's awful,
Yeah. Well,
and
you
go
hit
ahead.
the nail on the head when you said the human factor. And I find that gets lost in so much translation because everybody is under so many stresses. I have bosses to report to. I have the blessing of being able to run losses, but I also run the administration of the business. And so I always teach my employees to have the mantra, you will never fail if you approach it with kindness. You will either win or you will learn. And so we always have to drive to improve ourselves, to set ourselves not only apart from the competition, but to do our jobs well, because that's what helps to build that reputation. But I'm curious, I had a list of questions that I wanted to ask you because I am so interested in your career and how you got to where you were. So
Okay.
absolute bombshell powerhouse, just
Well, thank you.
knowledge and education. How did you land on the purview of the condo market?
Well, that's an easy response. So I was a condo board member and owner from 2006 till about 2013. I sat as president for about 5 of those years. I had a great board that worked with me. A lot of really great personalities and different personalities. And then I became a property manager because the property management firms that we had in our property, they were cycling through property managers like water. So we had to keep repeating ourselves. And I'm like, we've got windows and doors and roofs to do on our reserve fund. And I'm like, I can't keep explaining what's happening to these new people. And then I also noted that if we didn't, like, we got screwed over by one contractor, a couple of them, like really badly. And I was like, this is insane. And then I went and worked with my ex and his company because I had my daughter. And so after being a property manager, which I loved, by the way, I loved being a property manager. I thought it was great. It's just dealing with personalities is what you're dealing with. And then I went and worked with my ex, and he runs like a medium-sized construction company and did a lot of condos. So a lot of landscape maintenance, landscaping, hardscapes. He did stuff with restoration. He did stuff with roads. He did a lot of different things, but not everything he did, I super agreed with his method. So, but I worked my way inside that company to sit near the top to help run the operations in the back of house, not the front of house, because he had a guy that did that, right? Because he was out in the field. But I still would go do quality control and did all the safety and oversaw a lot of those things. And I didn't really like how contractors did things, seeing what I saw. And so then I was like, well, maybe I'll start doing what I'm doing, but I'll work with trades. So I'll go in as a consultant for trades, and I will help them build their companies, and I will help them with their clients, which I did. And I was amazing at, and I brought in millions of dollars for clients, but they didn't pay me on time all the time. They didn't pay me everything they owed me. They took advantage of who I was. So as quickly as they took advantage is as quickly as I took that away. And then everything dwindled. So then I realized, okay, well, I have enough skin in the game that if they want to screw me over, when I walk away, my clients are gone too. They're like, oh, well, we're done. Because if Lisa's not here, she's our point of contact. She doesn't, she lets us know everything. She's always on top of everything. She's talking to the owners. Everyone's happy with her. So if she's gone, you're gone. Which it's empowering, but at the same time, it's like, I don't like having power like that because people are like, oh, well, Lisa can destroy your company. And I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to destroy anybody's company. You just need to do what you say you're going to do, whatever our contract is, whatever our agreements are, hold true to them, like have some integrity,
Process of auditing in any application or any program, it's required, it's needed, and it's respected. And good contractors know that, and they have good relationships. Like the insurance process, it's not a seamless process whereby we go in, whether we're working for a condo corporation or an insurer, we have to prepare an estimate first. But it's not just here you go, here's your price, whether it's condo board or it's the just cost control or vendor management that reviews our pricing against the agreement that we are supposed to be abiding by. And if there are any deviations or if there are any just abnormalities, we have to justify those. We have to defend our estimates as a contractor. And my experience in this industry has been favorable with that because it fosters trust that I am able to defend any part of your estimate my estimate that you question me on. There is absolutely nothing in there that I would not be able to speak to personally and why it is needed, and even breaking down the components of it, that transparency and that auditing, whether it's related to pricing, service, timelines. I love that you've spearheaded that area for property management.
Oh, well, thank you. So with that moving forward, I just basically got kind of frustrated with how trades were doing it. And I was like, you know what? I'm not, the old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. So that's what I did. And seemed like I was getting beat inside of it. So I just said, forget it. Now I'm going to be your best friend or your worst nightmare. And I'm going to go stand on the side of the people who actually need me, who are going to realize that when a trade comes in, I'm going to peel apart everything. So if you've got nothing to hide, if you are transparent, if you are straight with me and everything makes sense, I'm going to say absolutely. I'm not going to look at somebody who comes in with a window project and says, "Oh, we're going to use, Lux and their windows are, like $95,000 for X amount of windows and blah 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 and and so we're going to charge our 5% or whatever." I know where they hide everything. I know where that's the trick. I know where contractors hide everything. So I look at it and I'm like, okay, if it doesn't go over 20%, I leave it alone. I don't touch it. I'm like, okay, everyone has to make money. I'm not going to sit here. And trades are no longer as lucrative as they once were. And especially people in resto, you guys are waiting for insurance to pay you. That could be up to 120 days or longer
Or
before you
long,
get paid.
right? And there's those unique
Yeah.
laws. But the partnerships that we have with our insurance carriers, like we have never had an issue and we have open dialogues constantly. And so when we are a preferred vendor with an insurance company, we are vetting them if just as much, if not more, as they are vetting us, because it is our service, it is our brand, it is what we are attaching ourselves to. And I have the blessing of working with many of the major national brands in that sense. But you have to be so careful with your reputation, because you're not judged on what you will promise to do, you're judged on what you do. And so if you're part of that insurance process, there's a lot more intricacies. It's not just a construction project, it's an insurance claim that is forward as an insurance project. And so we're able to wear a lot of hats, whether it's related to insurance, property management, or private reno, but they all run independently. They have a specific job flow.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely correct. So, I mean, and for me, I always look at it as a perspective, like it's an open opportunity for me to help a contractor do really great and continue, and also put them part of my vetted list.
Mm-hmm.
So that when my clients come to me and say, "Hey, Lisa, we need to get this done. Do you know a good contractor?" I can go, "Sure, I sure do. I've worked alongside them. They're very transparent. They don't try and nickel and dime you to death." Because what happens is, what I was coming across is there's a lot of contractors that are putting in a 60% markup, but you got to know where to look.
Yeah, it's tough to do from the insurance side, but absolutely, I could acknowledge that that would be an exposure as it relates to just general contracting or construction law or construction contracts. I did have the benefit of working more on the legal side of the insurance industry. I'm not sure if we talked about that, but there was a firm that I worked for in Guelph, and I worked under senior counsel, and the firm specialized specifically in alternative dispute resolution, appraisal, or potential suit if it got to that. So I've had the benefit of working. I personally have had the experience of doing 17 appraisals, which is what happens when things go really badly between a policyholder or their insurer, and the contractor is almost always involved in that conversation. And so there's so much education to be had surrounding that.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things that, like I said, it's not what it used to be for companies to make the money that they were once making. It's a lot harder. And so I understand that there's costs that they have to associate. There's overhead, there's this, there's that. But like I said, with someone like me, even with resto companies, and don't take this as an attack, it's something that I've seen before. And I'm not saying your company does it by any stretch, but I've seen where they will say that they had 6 guys there and 20 DHUs. And I'm like, I saw 5 DHUs and 2 guys.
Well, everyone is going to be skeptical of their contractors, right? Because it's just normal media, right? There's Mike Holmes on TV, and I do have to set expectations for a lot of my policyholders, because construction is not a process as you observe on TV. It's not homes on homes. It's not move that bus. You will not be moving in next week. Like, there's a lot of factors that affect our timeline. And so if you bring the homeowners into that conversation and you're constantly just keeping your finger on the pulse and you're coming through on those commitments that you have control on. I have no control on if a storm hits Calgary tomorrow and I get 2,000 claims. I have no control of that, but I can prep the homeowner that that's the nature of my business. And should this happen, I will do everything I can to avoid your project being impacted, but it's a reality. It's a risk if you choose to go with me, and I'm going to tell you on day one.
See, and this is what I love about you, Jill, is that this is exactly how I operate. It's just keeping the client in the loop and just being honest. Don't hide things from them. This is what happens. This is what I can control. This is what we can't control. Sometimes things happen in the middle of us doing basically doing the rebuild on this. There's another catastrophe that happens that needs me and my attention, and my team's attention, but we're going to be back and we're going to finish it, and we're going to let you know and keep you in that communication loop. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, if this happened to you, you'd want us there too.
Absolutely. And it's
You know?
experience for them and it's traumatic. And so there are certain things, of course, that they can't be part of that process because whatever contracts exist or investigation that has to occur. But as long as they understand what they're waiting on, timelines, who's responsible for next steps, then it de-escalates everything so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and and you get some resto contractors that they try and cut too much, right? And then I always kind of crack up when I see an adjuster and a contractor, like a resto tech, kind of going head to head on things. I always kind of giggle, right? So when I sit there and the adjuster's like, you don't need to cut that high. And I'm like, well, no, he doesn't need to cut that high, or she doesn't need to cut that high. But in order to fit the proper, when we're doing these cuts, we're considering rebuild at the same time.
Oh, absolutely.
So you know what? It's a lot easier to put a piece of drywall in at 4x4 or at 2x2 than it is by 1 and 3.
But it's
So
easy. Unfortunately, the nature of the beast is many insurance contracts are based on a concept called direct physical damage. So,
mhm.
yes, there are some paths that may simply be easier or more aesthetically pleasing, but we as a contractor and a partner to those insurance partners as well as those condo corporations is that just capturing that direct physical damage because there are so many things that happen after we're outside of the conversation, whether you're enforcing lease agreements or sub-row agreements, et cetera. Like we're a partner in that. And so we're
Mhm.
able to contribute that at administrative level to our service.
I think that's a great service to add, but at the same time, could we not argue the fact that they're going to pay the same amount for that piece of drywall? So if we cut it to a point where it can be aesthetically pleasing, why wouldn't we when we already know they're going to pay the
Oh,
same
for sure.
amount for it? Yeah.
Definitely choices that are made on site, but for the purposes of the reflection and the estimating and the
Oh, it's
budget,
good. It's being
direct
honest. Yeah.
damage is generally how we approach it though, because you can't go wrong if you tell the truth. And if you have an estimate apples to apples and you are estimating only on direct physical damage, there is no merger of insurance and not insurance. And that's something that we run into quite often because when we are in someone's home because of an uninvited loss, whether it's for a condo corporation or anything else, and there are unit owners or there are homeowners and potentially they want to add to their scope of repair. And so we have to be very mindful of that because it affects our contracts differently because a job that is completed under an insurance claim is handled
Mhm.
a specific way with warranty. And then there are different private files. And so sometimes we're working with multiple contracts in any given unit.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. Okay, so outside of all of this powerhouse wonderfulness that you do, Jill,
Mm.
what else? I know you're a mom. I know you are. I think you're a pet owner too, aren't you? What else do you
Oh
do?
my word. Yes. Well, 10-year-old daughter. Her name is Nora, and she is in grade five. Five. She's in grade five. I also have a 12-year-old stepson. I got married in September of this year, which was super exciting. And so
Congratulations.
my husband is flight crew with a major airline, and so we get the benefit of traveling quite a bit, which I am so grateful for. Like I traveled quite a bit before, but when you do have those benefits available and just
Mhm.
we have to be so compliant with like codes of conduct and the way we dress on the airplanes and everything because we're a representation of the company
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's super exciting. I have a special Christmas project that is directly tied to that benefit and I'm so excited.
Oh, that's so nice. I got the pleasure of meeting your lovely spouse. So and you guys just have like the cutest little love story. So I love that. So just know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it just ended like human interest. Like he was a tattoo artist for 25 years, and so when we got together, like he is a patient man. Bless his heart. I'm tough to handle, and so of course, as a tattoo artist, like he has all of these incredible experiences, traveled the world, done like tribal tattoo ink from like Peru, and not like just the conventional stuff. He also
Yep.
did like metal tattooing, like post procedures and things of that nature. But me being my like okay, what does this look like? Are you going to be a 50-year-old tattoo artist? Does it come with a pension? Like, what's our investment rate? Spread across the right risk and mutual funds? And he's like, oh, damn. So we wanted to look for something with a little more security for the kids. And he was a volunteer firefighter for a very long time. And so that's kind of what the hangup was like customer service, transferable skills, but he had the emergency management experience, which the airlines loved. And so he's been doing that ever since.
And I love that for him. But it's, I will agree with you that women like us who are, self-starters and motivated and powerhouses, we are a handful to the men that come into our life or to the women that come into our life. I mean, depends what your orientation is. You and I are both heterosexual, but I
Yeah.
always find that like I know my significant other's like you cause the vein in my head to come out every day.
But you need a good partner in this industry, in any industry. You have
You do.
something to come home to where someone understands you. And like it's funny because your spouse knows you on a different level than anyone else. And so if I come tearing into the house just barking orders, like Adam will literally go to the fridge and get a Diet Coke and a chocolate and he's like, have this, and then we'll talk in 15 minutes. Like those
Oh
are
yeah,
just little things where he's like, oh, you probably haven't eaten today and you're gonna come home and you're gonna be grumpy with us. So
yeah.
it's, you have to have that support at home to be able to succeed in life, I think, in business, in terms of your aspirations.
I
So
agree. Yeah, I agree. Our joke between the two of us is that our trauma makes us really funny. So
dude, I think that's just fantastic. That's one of the best jokes I've heard in a long time.
he's like, him and I were always joking. We always make each other laugh. And I'm like, isn't it great that we have so much trauma? We're hilarious.
Oh my word, right?
And he's just like, yeah, it's accurate.
Yes.
But I
Super
mean,
fun
you
time.
got, yeah, you got to have a good sense of humor, and everybody sees things differently, right?
Oh, for
Everybody's
sure.
relationship is personal to themselves. So
Yeah, most definitely. So what do you guys get up to for fun? Do you have hobbies? Do you have clubs? My daughter is so scheduled for activities, so I have no social life because my social life is my daughter's. But do you have the benefit of outside activities?
no,
No.
not really, not really. So my daughter's 14, and
Mhm.
she okay. So let me think here. She likes to, I mean, she's like a typical 14-year-old girl, like boys and playing video games and TikTok. And some people say, well, that's not typical. And I'll be like, for that generation, it really is. I'm going to tell you a funny story here in a second that happened this morning. You're going to have a good laugh. And something you can look out for too. My son, on the other hand, football, 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 football. So I'm trying to move him out of Airdrie and get him into Calgary right now. So the league that we were with has now closed their doors. It takes a lot to volunteer for that. So I'm so grateful for them and for everything that they did. But now, so that league is now down, and so we have another league there, but my son doesn't want to be a part of it because of an altercation that happened in his school. And so it's the person that he had an altercation with, their parents run that program. So he's like, I want nothing to do with it. I want to go to Calgary. So I said, fine. So mom's on the hunt for Calgary teams. So that's what I'm doing. So yes, I'm a football mom. Him and his dad do a lot of that though. So my ex and I, we support whatever they want to do. Jocelyn likes to, she does like to skate, and she loves going for walks, and she likes hiking within reason. But when I say within reason, it's like we're not going to Banff and doing like a 8K walk. She'd be like, forget it. But
Yeah.
like doing like a, I don't know, like a 4 or 5K walk around the neighborhood and just doing things. And with kids, there has to be like an incentive. Like, is there a Starbucks where we're headed?
Oh
Like,
yeah. 100%.
yes, let's go. But so anyway, so my son is, I love him to death. And him and his sister are close, but let me tell you, that kid rats his sister out all the bloody time. He's
Oh,
like, and most people will be like, oh, snitches get stitches. And I used to say that to him sometimes. But that's, in this case, it's good. Like, he pays attention to who she's talking to online, what she's doing. So he comes upstairs like 3 days ago, and he goes, Mom, I think Jocelyn has some spicy books. And I'm like, spicy books, hey? And I'm like, okay, well, what are they about? And he's like, well, she says they're romance novels. And I'm like, oh, romance novels are a little spicy. That's fine. To me, spicy is not the same in my brain as like what I came across. So I went downstairs and I was like, oh, I hear you have spicy books. Let me see these spicy books. So she gives me this book, and it looks nothing like what you think it is. And I took it to Facebook today in the Airdrie, and it was funny. There's a lot of people coming back going, "Oh yeah, that's normal." Blah blah blah.
moms?
It's what?
Did you post that on Airdrie Moms?
No, I posted it on Airdrie, like Alberta Airdrie.
Oh, I thought I was looking for the mom group. I post things there all the time.
So anyway, so super funny because I'm like, so the book is called Icebreakers. And when
Uh-huh.
you read the back, it's all about a girl who likes a guy who plays hockey, and she's this figure skater, and they're, going to have some romance of sort. And it's nothing like my mom. So my mom took her to the mall, and all these books are up front. And so she grabbed these two books, and reading the front and the back, you don't really think anything of it. Yes, if you look all the way down, it says, like young adult. Still, like, there's ways of writing young adult romances where you get the point, but it's more of like, it triggers your imagination more than anything. These ones, it's graphic. It is straight up erotica. Like, I've had, like, people were posting, they're like, this is smut. I'm like, it is. And I'm like, it takes a village to raise children. So I'm letting everybody know that this book is not what it seems. Like, even the cover, you'd think it's like your teenager would come up to you and be like, I want this. And you'd be like, okay.
I know,
So
so
you'd
funny.
buy it. But apparently now you have to like check. There's an app now that you can check books on that give you the ratings and what they are.
Well,
I'm like,
it's so funny the challenges that evolve with the age of your children. So, like birth to 6 months where you're just a hot mess and it's like keep them alive, keep them alive, keep them alive. And that is you're all consuming for 6 months. But then as they grow, all of these different concerns come. And never in my life would I consider that I have to look at a book in my daughter's room to wonder what is in that book. Right? Like that's just such a unique experience that we have to be mindful of. Like this book looks perfectly normal, and how would I know otherwise what the content is? Because I am very mindful of what my daughter like watches on the internet and like who she may be talking to, and there's so many like apps and games and everything. Like I just feel like that occupies so much of my time, and the amount of times that I am on like the mom chat with my daughter's friends because they're fighting because one girl was mad on Snapchat and said something rude, and it's like, oh my god, why do we have so much of this?
I don't let my daughter have Snapchat.
Oh,
She's not allowed.
really?
Yeah, she's not allowed.
My perspective is it's going to happen, right? So whether or
Mhm.
not I restrict it or we lean into it and we work it into our regular life, that's how I kind of try and advance things because technology is going to be ever present. And I try and have that mindset
Mhm.
at work as well because I'm open to try anything new because there's always these newest, craziest, evolving things. We're trying something out right now and it's just beyond anything I've ever
Yeah.
um, wrapped my mind around. But I want my daughter to be excited about new things and changes and trying how technology can potentially improve her life or improve her experience, help her learn more, help her achieve more. But that is the double-edged sword that there's other things that come with it.
I don't disagree with you. I tend to be I consider myself to be a progressive parent, and
Mhm.
I let my daughter on TikTok, and I let her look at quite a few different apps, and I don't lock down everything. I do lock down certain things, but my daughter has proven to me that she can't really be trusted with certain things. So, I mean, that's why her little brother is like my little eagle eye, and he comes up and he's like, "Mom, Justin's talking to somebody, and I don't like it. I don't like the way he's talking to her." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'll go downstairs and I'll listen for like a minute, and then I'm like, "Who you talking to?" And she's like, "Oh, just my friend." I'm like, "Who's your friend?" And then she'll say like whoever, and I'll be like, "How do you know them? You know them from school?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Get rid of them. They ain't your friend."
So funny.
And then I mean, she had Snapchat and she made a mistake with Snapchat. She sent a picture she shouldn't have, and
Mhm.
I was like, "That's done." And I never approved Snapchat, so when I found out that she had it, and then I found out she did this, I was like, "No,
I am
no more."
so grateful that cell phones did not exist when I was growing up
Me
because just
too.
the things that can be documented like by multiple sources and shared with people that you have no control over, it's frightening. Like I really am fearful for my daughter's experience when she gets to high school
Yeah.
because yeah, it's real.
Well, and she didn't send anything that's going to destroy her life. She was
Hmm.
close, but it was suggestive. And I was like, we're done here.
Yeah.
If you can't be engaging in these types of applications and this type of conversation when you're not old enough to understand the repercussions of it. Once it's online, it's done. It's out there. It's finite,
So
right?
very question to just female in the industry. How do you balance being a mom and doing all of this stuff? Like what are your pain points?
My pain points?
Hmm.
I don't
Like
know.
do you like
I
not
mean,
enough like how do you balance it all because you do quite a bit with your family and you do so much at work, like what are the things that you do to kind of keep yourself well?
you know what? I cherry pick work.
That's always helpful because you don't just get wild
I
at whether
cherry pick work. Yeah, I have to.
trust me.
Yeah, so like I've gone through so many things, right? So I didn't cherry pick my work. I would just work, 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 work. Like I was basically a workaholic. When myself and my ex split up, and I bought my house, and I was a workaholic. That's all I did. I was an operations director for a restoration company. And then I moved out of that. And then I went in to do my own business because I was like, if I'm going to work those kinds of hours, I might as well do it for myself.
Mm.
And then, so then when I did that and it was constant. Like I was leaving all hours of the day and night because most of the companies that I worked for were restoration, and restoration is all the time. Right. And then of course I'm the lead. So it's like, guess where you're going at 11, guess where you're going at 9, guess where you're going at 4 a.m. And I was just like, oh my God. And my kids were not super big. So my mom helped raise my kids probably for the first couple of years. And then, it always takes something monumental to happen in your life for you to really force yourself to reconsider your priorities. Right. So I got breast cancer in 2022. I
Oh
was
my,
diagnosed with breast
no,
cancer. So
my God, that's a powerful. I'm so sorry for that experience, but look at you, like that's incredible.
yeah. Well, and I had such an amazing support, you know, uh, like between my mother and my neighbors and a girlfriend of mine just basically took the bull by the horns and was like, we're going to do this and we're going to do the research and she really, really helped me. And I had a lot of my best friends and family around me. I didn't mention it to a lot of people. I didn't tell a lot of people in the beginning because I'm like, I don't need the pity card. I don't need the, what can I do for you? I don't need, just my tribe knew. So
Yep.
not even my extended family knew. It was like just like my mom and my brother knew, and that was it. And his wife knew, and that was it. But I was very like, I had cousins that were going through similar things, and they were like, "Oh, I heard blah blah blah." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Everything's fine." Because I was very private about it. But regardless, what happened was I went on a naturopathic aspect. So I did the surgery, and they did what they call a lumpectomy. So they didn't take the whole boob. And then I went through radiation, which I went through a massive anxiety attack. I've never had anxiety attacks in my life. And then I
Wow.
went through a massive anxiety attack going into the radiation room because I was like, everything in my body was like, this is wrong. But then I had an amazing acupuncturist that, got referred, that I was referred to. And I still go to her to this day. I was referred to an amazing naturopath that I still go to this day. So I was actually just in vitamins. I do intravenous vitamins every like 2 to 3 weeks. So I was just there like 2 days ago.
I was
Getting,
actually just looking at that, and it's
yeah.
funny that, and it's so up and coming, like medical tourism. I have friends that are traveling to other countries for like cosmetic procedures, and a lot of them.
Mhm.
I had a girlfriend come back from Bali, and they do like the vitamin injections like all the time there. It's super mainstream, it's super cheap, and she was like, "My hair is better, my skin is better," and so I'm like, I'm gonna try this.
Yeah.
You
Well, and
know,
that's the thing, right? So I do intravenous vitamins every 2 to 3 weeks. I'm in acupuncture every 2 weeks. And the acupuncture is really good. It helps because what happens is when you go into these high stress modes, so you get into your high cortisol, you get into this, you get into that. So I constantly get shoved back into my rest and digest mode um, with acupuncture, and then she helps fix anything or tweak anything and just keeps everything going. And then she also has this an amazing laser that came out of Europe that actually, so all of the symptoms that happen after radiation, I didn't get. I didn't
wow,
get any of them. So,
wow.
and that was because between the vitamins and the acupuncture and the laser, I was doing all the things to help put my body back together that wasn't chemically induced.
Oh, that's incredible.
So that's what I did. And I showed my kids. And then I had another girl. So my one girlfriend that was like my like crusader, she was like, let me make you soups and let me do this. And I also went alkaline for 8 months, like straight alkaline. I was eating nothing but veggies, fruit, and lemon water. That's all
Wow.
I ate for 8 months. And my body went completely alkaline. And they're like, cancer can't grow in alkaline. So go alkaline. But be careful because if you get too alkaline, then you can go into halitosis. So remember everything's in moderation. So I try to maintain that like the mid sevens, low to mid seven range
Yeah.
for the pH because otherwise you don't want to go acidic, which acidic is like
Right.
5 and 6s, and
Yeah.
then like high 6s and mid sevens are kind of right where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's funny because like right now I'm doing a detox right now because I'm like, oh, I got a little indulgent after a year of doing all this craziness. And then I was just kind of like, I started eating because I'm a foodie. I love food.
I
Right. So I'm just like,
know when we went out for lunch that day, that Greek food, I was just like, I'm so glad someone experiences it or appreciates this on the same level that I do because it was so good.
I know it's like, and I'm such a foodie. Like I love everything. And then like my other half was giving me a hard time. He's like, because I always go to Cactus Club. is normally
Yeah,
where I go. And he's like,
obvious.
"Do you ever get sick of the Cactus Club?" I'm like, "No,
Does those words don't fit together,
no." I'm
right?
like, every time I go, I can get something new. And he's like, "Do you?" And do you want to know what? I'm not gonna lie. I blame the Cactus Club a little bit for some of the weight gain that I ended up getting because I'm
No,
heavier than I was, right? And I'll tell you what it is. I didn't think about it at the time. My favorite food is their beef carpaccio, and I was eating it like a wild person. So I was like, I was going like 6 times a month eating beef carpaccio, and then like a steak, and then like a
yeah,
bowl, and then like a poke bowl or whatever. And I was like, oh, it's fine. But then you look at the calories and the fat content, and you're like, oops.
but you more than earned that for a little bit there because, well, like great choices. That is exactly what I would eat, but that is incredible. Your bravery, like I had no idea that you faced that and like that you've come out the other side. Such a blessing, and I'm so glad to know you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it was hard. I mean, that's where, I mean, I was fighting with my ex, and it was getting ugly. And I mean, there was a couple of times where we could have lost the house because of how much I had to pay in lawyers, and my mom had to jump in and help me. And then when I got diagnosed, I was just like, wrap it up to my lawyers. I'm like, wrap this up. I don't care. Give him whatever he wants. I didn't want anything in the beginning. I just walked away. I was like, leave me alone. But he wanted to fight. And I was like, cool. I want what's fair. Me walking out of the relationship, I want fair. And here you are, multimillionaire. So I want half. That's what
Yeah,
I want. I want half, and not half of your whatever you have. I just want half of what's fair. You have 4 houses. I want one house,
yeah,
and
and
then leave me alone.
facing that in the middle of a health crisis, like that couldn't have been
I
easy.
got nothing. I got
Like,
nothing. Just so you're
look
aware.
where you are now, like it's such an incredible transition, and that is so
Yeah.
just so motivated by that story. I had no idea that
Well,
you dealt.
well, thank you. And so that's where I always tell women, I'm like, you know what? If you can get through one thing, you can get through anything. And it's like, just don't fight and don't sweat the small things. Like I went through all the crap with the lawyer because he wanted to fight. I didn't want to fight. I
Yeah,
just wanted you to leave me alone. Like pay the child support that you need to pay for our kids so that they don't suffer. And
mhm,
I'm young enough to go work and do my thing. I don't need
yeah,
I don't need all this. I didn't get spousal. I didn't get anything. I walked away and rebuilt my life. My
but
entire
so
house that I own, I
yeah.
did everything. I did it all.
When did you open the firm for what you're doing now? Like, how long have you been doing this and exclusively this?
November 1st of 2019.
Okay, so yeah, you have some years. You have some tenure here. So, what has been your experience? Like, if you could go back and tell yourself in 2019, what would be the advice that you would give your younger self today in terms of what you have taken away from building your brand?
Don't trust any of the marketing firms.
Why you've had bad, terrible experiences? I'm assuming.
You bleed money. You bleed money.
Yeah, it's
Don't
tough.
trust the marketing firms. Trust yourself and go into your niche. So now that I sit as the host for Condo Chats for COF,
Hmm.
right? So I'm their host, and I also am doing presentations, and I'm also helping however I can with the Condominium Owners Forum, non for profit.
Hmm.
I'm also a member with them. I will also become a sponsor with them. I am a sponsor with CCI South Chapter in Alberta. I'm also the lead moderator for their condo strengths. That
Hmm.
is my audience. Those are the people that I'm there to help regardless. And I'm
Yeah,
doing it. I'm a sponsor with CCI. I'm a member with CCI. That's where I needed to focus. I had a membership with them, but what I needed to do is I needed to put more focus on
yeah,
those industry, like in that industry itself, than
yep,
trying to find ways to approach property managers, because I don't need to approach property managers. I'm talking right to the owners.
yep,
They know
absolutely.
my name. They know my face. They know what I'm there for. And I'm there to help them. I'm not there to, be
Yeah,
like, oh, well, don't worry. And that's because one of the questions, and I loved that it was a question that came out from an owner, and they said, with all of these different organizations, when you bring in trades, is there a kickback? It's a great question,
oh
because
my
I'm
god.
like,
Yeah, it's not possible in this day and age. Like it's so heavily regulated and heavily monitored, and we have to be so transparent with everything. Even like a year after something is closed, if we get a request for disclosure, we have to open everything right back up. Nobody dares run that risk nowadays.
you'd think so, but it's still very prominent.
Oh, not in my experience. I'm so sorry if you come across that. That's got to
Oh,
be.
I come across it. Yeah, I come across it often.
Oh my.
And, the people that benefit the most for kickbacks are property managers and insurance. Those are the ones that profit the most. And I've seen it myself in industry, and I've seen it recently. And I just kind of shake my head and I'm like, it's going to catch up to you.
Yeah, well, as anything would, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to stick my nose in that and be like, do you know? Right.
Yes, yes,
But
absolutely. Just
I'm gonna be like, you know better. Most firms that I work with do not engage in that. Like when I sit down
talk
and
for
I say to them, because people ask me when they say, do you have kickbacks? I say, here's the thing. A kickback is doing something for someone in order to get more work. I don't do that. What I do is I tailor my gifts to my clients to tell them, thank you.
yes.
Thank you for thinking of me. And I said, and I do that even with my boards. So if the property manager is getting a package that's tailored to them, so is the board.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great approach because if you approach each client with a different tailored package, it's more of that boutique service. And so it's
Cool.
applicable to any loss because I'm sure
Yeah.
you've walked into the same cause of loss multiple times, but I bet you not one claim has run the same way. And that's the same for us. You have to tailor your approach to the individual circumstance.
100%. 100%. And even when people are like, oh my God, we've got board members or we've got owners that are crazy. And I'm like, are they, or are you just not listening?
Exactly. Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's dig
Yeah.
deeper, find out why. What is the pain point and solve it. That's the point of being in business.
I love that you're saying all this, and I'll tell you why. Because so I'm doing on COF, I'm doing a presentation, and it is on the pain points for condo owners in construction. That's what it's called.
You call me when you are digging more into that project and we will chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's already done. I've created the whole entire thing, and it's amazing. And so it has the pain points and the solution.
Yep.
So
And
it's
that's
like,
what
here
you
you
have
go.
in
Yeah.
business. You're solving a problem or you're providing a service. Like I'm not doing this. Like I could make money in any other industry, of course. Like I'm sure I would love to do something that doesn't involve actual sewage or fire or cleaning, but I love the nature of this business is that we
Hmm.
find people at their most vulnerable, usually the worst days of their life, sometimes fatalities, unfortunately. And a real risk is people don't always survive these events, and we are paired with them. We are trusted. We are in their kitchens when their kids are getting ready for school. We're getting to know these families. We're getting to know these policyholders, clients. And I have the blessing of working for an incredible organization that understands that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And when you have those organizations that can support you that way, it's the most
Mhm.
amazing thing in the world. So, and it's a great feeling, you want to feel support. And that is the biggest challenge in most companies is that exact item, right? Is where you have not the right support. So when people say, I always say there's can't and won't. Can't is you don't have the right tools. Won't is you just don't care to do it.
Amen,
And
sister.
yeah. And so when someone says I can't, I'm like, what do you need?
Yep.
What do you need? Where do you need me to support you in
And
order for you to facilitate this?
that is leadership. If you want people that will walk through fire for you, you
Yeah.
better believe that you are in there and you are not. I never ask my staff to do anything
Mhm.
that I wouldn't do myself. And there is a running joke. Every time that I get dressed up, I always have to go to some dirty claim. And of course, today is a Christmas marketing day. And so after this, I have to go crawl under a trailer. I have to remove the skirting and go and inspect the plumbing, of course, because it's like my Murphy's Law. Every time I dress up, I'm going to have to go somewhere dirty. But I would
Yeah.
not ask a staff member to do it because what I am investigating requires my eyes and my expertise. And I'm
Yeah.
going to crawl over that trailer and I'm going to have my tech at my spotter point to make sure that I'm okay under it. But they're going to watch that as a general manager, I will get my butt down in that snow. I will crawl under that trailer. I will do what I need to do. And I wouldn't ask you to do it if I wasn't going to do it myself.
Oh my God, I love you. I do the same thing. I'm like, once you hit that level of seniority and of management, there's no doesn't exist in your vocabulary anymore. I'm so sick and tired of listening to these guys that are like, oh, it's not my job. You're the site super. You're the site attendant. You're the
Mm-hmm.
general manager. What do you mean it's not your job? Cleaning
No,
toilets is your job. Everything is your job. There is
hey man,
no.
if I have a cat going on and everyone's firing all cylinders and no one's cleaned the bathroom, I'll go clean the bathroom.
Yeah.
Like you just got to do what you got to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly how I feel. I'm like, there's no at that point. And like you say, right? All the times I would get dressed up to go to meetings when I was working for the resto company, it was never failed. It was like, oh, well, here we go in heels to a site. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but
Well,
I'd always carry my steel toes in the truck.
yeah,
But I
I have a
remember one day
my
just to,
blue that has everything in it. So my steel toes, all the Tyvek suits, on my
yep,
respirator. even have
Yep, have
independent.
all of it.
I have to go into a crawl space. You got to be prepared
You
because
have to.
it's expensive, and it's expensive to dry clean.
And that's the thing, is that you don't want to ruin your good clothes either, especially like, I mean, I had Tyveks, I had booties, I had everything in there. But I mean, I remember I was like, the one time I decided I was going to be a little bit unsafe, but I decided I was going to grab large cylinder bricks, like they're like the patio stones, like the great big ones.
Yeah.
And I picked them up with my heels on, and I started walking across the site with my heels on. And let me tell you,
Going.
boys run very fast when they see that. They're like, "What are you doing? Oh my God." And I'm like, somebody's got to do it. You guys, what are you doing? I don't know what you're doing.
I know.
I'm like, let me help you.
I see the time here. I'm so sorry to interject, but I do have to carry on. I have a very full afternoon, but
No, you do you, girl.
Yes, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I so look forward to keep working with you, and you call me anytime.
Oh, you're amazing, Jill. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Hang tight 2 seconds, and we're going to wrap up, and I'll let you run away, okay?
Okay, I have like 15% battery left.
It's all good. I'll be quick. Okay, so that concludes our show for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you'd like to be part of Devil's Advocate, you sure can. You can reach out to me, Lisa, at lpmenterprises.net, and we will address whatever you'd like to address in regards to topics, or you can come on and have a chat with me. Thanks so much, Jill. I appreciate your time with us, and we'll see you guys all next time.